A diet full of nutritious food is important for the well-being of our entire body, from our brain down to our gut, where all that food is digested and broken down into nutrients. Hi, I'm Shada Harrison, and this is On the Pulse, an 8-part health series. In today's episode, gut health and the importance of our poop, vegetable that will boost our moods, and is a gluten-free diet really for everyone? Besides exercising, I try to prepare my own simple, healthy meals whenever I can. I follow recipes that I find online, and recently, gut health has been trending hard. Under hashtags like Gut Talk, Gut Health, and Gut Healing, influencers and everyday users alike are posting stories about their gut health struggles and remedies, and views have crossed the 1 billion mark. Clearly, many people are concerned about their gut, but really, do we know what goes on down there? I certainly don't, but gastroenterologist Dr. Chen Wei Hao can break it down for us.
The gut is actually a long tube that provides a pathway for our food through the body. It actually comprises of multiple organs such as the esophagus, the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, which is behind the stomach, the small intestine, and then the large intestine. The adult gut is around 9 meters long.
9 meters long.
Thereabouts, given the differences in height. Yeah.
So what exactly does our gut do?
The basic function of the gut is, of course, its digestive function. It breaks down the food that we eat into its most basic components. This is then absorbed through the gut wall into our bloodstream. The nutrients that are absorbed would then go to power the various bodily functions. So when people talk about gut health, they are actually referring to the microorganisms that reside in our gut, the gut microbiota. There are actually 100 trillion microorganisms in our gut, and they come from 1,000 over species. We realize that there's actually very complex interactions that happen between the human host and these microorganisms. So the gut microbiota has been shown to be related to many aspects of our health, be it our immunity or even about inflammation.
So what exactly is a healthy gut?
So a healthy gut is one that functions well and has good bacteria and immune cells that can ward off infection. They can actually form a mucosal layer over our gut wall, making it stronger and impenetrable to harmful bacteria that is trying to harm the rest of the body. Good bacteria can actually influence our immunity by turning on and off inflammation. Bad bacteria tends to activate inflammatory processes, whereas good bacteria tends to suppress inflammatory processes.
So then how does one exactly maintain a healthy gut?
We know that the gut microbiome is always changing, and the change can be influenced by the things that we eat, the medications that we take, whether we sleep well or whether we exercise. So what we can do to maintain a healthy gut is basically try to maintain a balance between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. We know that gut microbiota diversity is key to good gut health, whereas a lack of diversity has been linked to multiple diseases. And in short, we want our gut microbiota to be like an Amazon forest rather than be like the Sahara Desert.
That's a very good analogy. So then what happens when your gut is thrown out of balance?
Some people can just experience abdominal symptoms like bloating, belching, abdominal pain, diarrhea, constipation. The gut also has approximately 100 million nerve cells. These nerve cells produce the same neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine like the brain. And as a result, people with gut problems can experience mood changes and sleep disturbances, and people with existing gut problems are more prone to mental health conditions such as anxiety and depression.
Wow, that is big. What are some of the things we can do to keep a healthy gut?
What we recommend usually is to have a diet rich in whole, unprocessed foods that are high in fiber. So examples of this would be like your vegetables, your beans, your nuts, and your grains. And sometimes the doctor recommends that the patient take some probiotics or digestive enzymes. Patients should do so. We also know that proper sleep, exercise, as well as stress reduction can make a difference in our gut health. All this can change our gut microbiota.
Right, okay.
Clearly, our gut is a far more complex thing than I'd ever thought. And Emily was launched in 2019 to learn more about it. It hopes to build an Asia-specific gut microbiome database. The data would help to drive research into therapies specifically for people living across Asia. But why specifically Asia?
In the last decade, there's been great research coming out of North America as well as Europe. However, the gut microbiome is very, very driven by local factors such as diet, lifestyle, and the environment. In fact, it has been estimated that the gut microbiome is more than 10 times affected by these local factors than by genetics. And here in Asia, we are unfortunately behind the curve when it comes to microbiome science. And because our own microbiomes are different from those of our counterparts in North America and in Europe, there is no choice but for us to do our own research, our own discovery.
But how exactly is an Asia-specific database built?
We have been very fortunate to partner with multiple academic institutions such as the National University of Singapore, the National Cancer Centre, and we essentially then piggyback microbiome studies to existing large studies. We also offer microbiome sequencing tests commercially, and we ask all of our customers whether they would like to give consent for their data to be used as part of our overall research efforts. And in the third aspect, we also run the region's first and only microbiome transplant service. The donors who step forward, we ask them to donate not just the physical or the biological samples, but also to contribute their data to the broader data set.
Dr. Jeremy shared that they had launched a Poop Saves Lives campaign in 2021, and since then, thousands have signed up to donate their poop. But we are talking about poop here. How do we even transplant poop?
Well, this is how we do it. And what happens is that maybe if we take a step back, more than half of your poop is really microbial. Right? There are the undigested fibers and so on, but slightly more than half of it would be microbial. And these microbes we take from healthy donors, and they undergo a very, very rigorous screening process. We then rush them from their homes, bring them to our lab, that 250, 300 grams worth of microbial matter, process it, and then put them into special preparations ready to be transplanted. And the microbiome is transplanted through a colonoscopy.
Because I've never really heard of,
Yep.
of a transplant like this before.
Yes.
So I can actually store my microbiomes
Yes, you
by
can.
being a donor,
Yes.
of course, right?
Yes. But you can also store it for yourself. What we launched last year together with CordLife was the world's first microbiome banking service. We know that our microbiomes deteriorate with age because we're exposed to additives in the food supply,
Right.
we take antibiotics, and therefore we want to preserve or store our best selves.
Right.
And this typically would be children who are relatively young, 8 to 12 years old. There's never a bad time, it's never too late.
So what happens when we need the gut microbiome that we've stored?
Once it's stored in a minus 80-degree freezer, it can be intact for many, many years. So what then happens is that if you ever need a microbiome transplant, then your doctor informs us. We then mobilize to have it thawed, and the preparation for ready transplant would then occur. And today we are starting to move with not just colonoscopic methods, but also enemas and also oral capsules.
Whew. This is all quite relatively new as well, right?
We do think that the capsule format will be the future, right? But we have spent the last 3 years getting the science right, and now we are very, very optimistic that the future of the microbiome transplant won't be in bottles like this, but it'll be in capsules that you take orally, yes.
Well, flushing my stool down the toilet now feels a bit wasteful. I'm not sure how I feel about storing my own poop for future use, but I certainly am compelled to keep my gut healthy now.
Up next, how is this locally grown kale different from the rest?
Kale is touted as a superfood. It is nutrient dense and has a relatively low calorie content. And here at this farm, this super vegetable is getting further souped up.
Sustaneer is a local urban farm, and Jack Moy, the CEO, will be showing me around. But first, we need to get into PPEs and decontaminate ourselves before we can enter. This is to ensure that all the produce grown inside remains safe and hygienic.
So, what is so special about this kale?
This is a black Tuscan kale. So we did a lot of R&D and study on our crops, and we realized that our kale contained high levels of this compound called GABA. It's a neurotransmitter that slows down the activities to your brain, and this makes you feel calmer and less stressed. And when we learned that, we realized that, hey, we have to find a way to use our precision agriculture techniques to increase the level of GABA.
Jack told me that GABA stands for gamma-aminobutyric acid. It is a neurotransmitter that lessens a nerve cell's ability to receive, create, or send chemical messages to other nerve cells. Besides kale, it is found in vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, spinach, as well as fermented foods like yogurt and tempeh. And it is also produced in our gut.
So, if it's produced naturally in the gut, why do we have to consume more of it?
That's because when you feel more stress, you need more GABA.
Is that right?
So what we want to do is to make sure that you get rich amounts of that compound. And currently in the city, we realize that many people are consuming GABA as a supplement. So what Sustaneer wants to do is to provide a strong alternative, where instead of consuming GABA from a supplement or a pill, why not get your GABA requirements from freshly produced crop like our kales?
Is there a difference between digesting GABA in supplement form and as a vegetable?
So that is a study that we are currently doing. The results are still pending. But I would say that we are generally very encouraged by the results so far.
How do you increase the GABA in this kale? Is it through the water?
What we do is use our technique called control environment agriculture or precision agriculture to alter and maximize the inputs for our crops so that we can optimize the nutritional level of our produce. So what we essentially do here is that we control the air, the amount of carbon dioxide, for example, the light spectrum that the plant receives, the amount of light hours they receive, all the way down to the nutrition that the plant receives in our hydroponic system. So that is our secret recipe to enable our crops to grow quickly as well as have higher levels of nutrition.
Right. So you don't inject the GABA into the plant?
Yeah, so it's not a straight line linear equation. There's a lot of work behind it.
So why this focus on GABA and kale specifically? Are you looking to explore other compounds and produce?
We realize globally people feel that they're stressed. We married that with the fact that there is a very strong connection between the gut and the mind. And we realize that many a time how you feel is also very much influenced by what you eat and what you produce in the gut. So that inspired us to study what are the different type of crops and benefits we could provide into the gut that can benefit the mind.
As I learned, this link between our gut and our mind is called the gut-brain axis. This is a two-way communication that takes place between the gastrointestinal tract and the central nervous system. The idea that what you eat can affect your mood and your mental health emerged centuries ago. But research in this field is now growing rapidly, and there may be hope yet that we could treat illnesses such as depression through our gut.
So what else can we look forward to?
Right now, we are still on the discovery process, and we have been doing a lot of R&D work on our kale. And we are realizing also that some parts of our kale has very high levels of prebiotics. And prebiotics can actually help increase the absorption of probiotics by almost 5 times. It's also present in many of the leafy vegetables. So certainly there's a lot of work over there. At the same time, we are also seeing a lot of benefits from many of the other leafy greens that we grow, like arugula, spinach.
It's fascinating to learn that we can make already nutritious produce even better for us. Definitely makes it easier for me to listen to my mother and eat my vegetables.
Up next, I find out, is the gluten-free diet really healthier for everyone? The gluten-free diet exploded in popularity in recent years. Now, most grocery stores are well stocked to meet demand.
I find myself looking out for gluten-free products too. Although, come to think about it, I'm not sure why. Is it really healthier for all of us to go on gluten-free diets? Guess I'll need to ask an expert.
Dr. Andrea Rajanakova has done extensive research about gluten-free diets and foods in Singapore.
People adopt it because they want to lose weight, they want to change into the healthy lifestyle. Sometimes people expect that, okay, gluten-free diet is something healthy, is something clean. Anytime you go to the shop, you see that, okay, gluten-free products are displayed somewhere next to the organic food. That's the misconception. But we have to ask the question, is it really for everyone?
Actually, what is a gluten-free diet and who is it for?
The gluten is a naturally occurring protein present in the wheat and barley and the rye. So the gluten-free diet basically is focusing more on avoidance of gluten-containing food and choosing the naturally occurring gluten-free food. Let's say potato, sweet potato, rice, quinoa, black rice, brown rice. Gluten-free diet is actually for people who do not tolerate the gluten, and gluten is doing some changes in their digestive system.
Dr. Andrea explained that people who can't tolerate gluten have celiac disease, an autoimmune disorder. Their immune system sees gluten as an invader and reacts abnormally to the gluten protein. Over time, the small intestine is inflamed and damaged and will lose its ability to absorb nutrients.
As a part of that malabsorption or poor absorption of the nutrients, they start developing a lot of symptoms. So they complain about a lot of bloating and gassiness and indigestion, a lot of belching and flatulence. Their stools are changing. They develop a loose stools. They feel very tired. They feel a lot of fatigue. Some people describe it as a brain fog.
How do I know then if I'm gluten intolerant?
So the gluten is tested by the blood test. And as a confirmation to see the degree of inflammation, we do the gastroscopy, where we take a small sample from the lining of the small intestine and look under the microscopy for the degree of the changes and the degree of the inflammation. So in order to advise the people who are intolerant to gluten, we try to give them the list of the foods which they need to avoid. For example, certain chocolate drinks, okay? If you read the labels, you understand, contain barley, contain malt extract. So it renders the product as not gluten-free. Soya sauce is the typical example because it's fermented. So the wheat is the one which is making the soya sauce as not gluten-free.
Right.
And here we talk about the processed food, the morning cereals, the sausages, salami, ham, processed meat, okay, all contain a lot of wheat ingredients or other wheat additives. Nuts are very, very popular snack recently. You again need to read the label. What type of nuts are you buying? If it is raw, unprocessed nuts, by all means, all perfect. But the moment it's roasted or it's already processed, they contain the wheat flour. Wheat flour is used as a coating to make it crispy.
Right. I had no idea that there was so much gluten in everything.
Absolutely.
Is there any reason for me to go gluten-free if I'm not gluten intolerant?
No. So
Is that your final answer? No?
that's a actually honest answer, I must say. If people are not celiac or gluten intolerant, when they opt for gluten-free diet, they are actually missing the nutrients which are available in the grains, which they can normally eat. So they actually are developing certain nutritional deficiencies. So it's not so advisable. However, if people are really trying to go to be on a gluten-free diet, I said, go ahead and give it a try. Use natural occurring gluten-free food. Never opt for commercially available substitute because they are heavily processed. Let me show it to you. These are the good examples of the gluten-free substitute commercially available. So the cookies, they are labeled as a gluten-free, that's perfect. But look at the ingredients. You are taking glucose syrup, sugar syrup, emulsifiers, a lot of additives, a lot of rising agents, a lot of preservatives. So is it really something which is healthier?
Yeah.
Let's go to simple wrap. We see gluten-free wrap. And here we are, preservatives, another one, emulsifier, additives, thickeners. So is it really something that I want to adopt in a way of taking a clean diet, taking something which is healthier, taking something which is probably going to help me to lose weight? Not at all. If we want to go for healthy and clean, pick up your broccoli, your cauliflower, your fresh vegetable, your fresh fruits, pick up the good quality meat, pick up your carbs as a complex carbs and use that wisely. And that's called healthy, well-balanced diet containing all the necessary nutrients that we need.
Well, I'm glad I learned all that before I went full gluten-free. I'll be going back to basics now, just simple, natural food.